My name is Greg Pensa. I was in petroleum marketing for 38 years. I had just graduated college and my father wanted to cut back in his work. He made me an offer to become a partner with him, and it was financially more exciting to work with my father than the job offers that I had received coming out of college. That's a good question. I didn't really realize it till my dad was serious and made a serious offer to me. I'd had a degree in telecommunications and film and was looking to get a job in broadcasting and had some limited experience, but nothing had really come together. So it was more the opportunity came from the family than from me. Well, you need to be able to wear a lot of hats because dealing with a major corporation, I dealt with Shell Oil and Mobil Oil. You have contracts you have to be able to understand. You have to have good organizational skills. You need to be able to understand insurance. You need to understand payroll. You need to be able to understand human relation law. So there's a lot of hats that you wear being a single proprietor business person. Well, to be in the petroleum business, you really don't need a formal education, but you do need to have business skills, and I would suggest that you have a business background. Today, people that are buying gas stations usually have a business degree because they're complicated and your contract with Mobil is very extensive, or Shell, and you better understand what you've signed yourself up for, or you could get into trouble pretty quickly. Well, in my business, I went from being a mechanic to running a small mini market. And for me, it was merchandising the market because you only had so much space and you needed to have tools to do analytics on what products were selling, what things you needed to get rid of. So merchandising probably, and seeing something, a product that you brought in that was new, sell, and then it put money in your pocket. So that was probably the most exciting part. Biggest challenges, probably the first one would be employees, finding people to work and keeping them honest. You need to have a good system of checks and balances. In our particular case, each cashier had to balance out their drawer at the end of their shift, because there's a lot of cash you're dealing with. You're also selling merchandise, which is, if it's not, if you're not doing good inventory, can get stolen quite easily. So employees is probably the biggest challenge, finding honest and hardworking people. Go the other way. I would say you really need to understand the company that you're with, what their long-range plans are, because you can be in a local situation where you're not looking at the long-range plans. In my particular case, I was with Mobil Oil. They got purchased by Exxon, and it completely changed our whole rental structure, our whole method of doing business, to the detriment of the individual franchisee. And so you need to look long-range on who you're partnering up with. In my case, I was a franchisee. So you need to make sure that you understand their long-range plan. Typical workday for me would be I would do banking. I also did all my own payroll and accounts payable. I did all the ordering from the merchants. So one thing you need to be able to do is be able to negotiate with Pepsi or Coca-Cola, because they will have certain obligations they want you to do, and it might not align with what you want to do. I would say part of it would also be a certain part of the day would be ordering and merchandising the station. Oh, probably 50 to 60 hours. You work, 5 days a week, 8 to 9 hours at the business, and then usually I would work a lot of Saturdays doing payroll or paying the bills. So usually, but close to 50, I would say, average. Well, in the service station business now, you usually see somebody that's going to come in and have two or three businesses, other service stations, because the margins are so thin in the petroleum business. It's hard to have just one and survive today. So that's probably the biggest change that I see. In the future, I would see service stations going to more automated where there weren't personnel there, because with any business, your biggest cost is labor. And if you can eliminate the labor, you're going to put more money in your pocket. So I could see it changing to a more automated situation. That can really vary. I mean, you're your own boss, and one of the things that when you make a decision is it's going to affect your bottom line. So if you make a bad decision about a product or a service, it's going to come right out of your paycheck. I would say that somebody can make 50 to 75,000 on a low-end station. If they're very successful, they could make 150 to 200,000. The biggest negative, I think, would be that you're, in my particular case, being a franchisee with a major oil company, is you're limited on certain things that you can do because of their contract. The hours, you have to be open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You have no choice on that. You can only sell their products, their gasoline, where you could find it cheaper in other places. So being bound to a major corporation was probably the biggest negative. Well, the joke would always be you always wanted to fire yourself because that means somebody bought you out at a great price. But you're in business for yourself, so if you decide to change careers or get another job offer, you're not really getting fired. You're just making a switch in your choices of careers. Well, I'll just talk about, in my particular case, I was offered a job by another large corporation. They had a gas station. They were in the process. They needed somebody to do the due diligence on a purchase that they were looking at acquiring, and then they were going to build a gas station. So all the skills that I had learned about dealing with environmental issues, acquiring properties, where I was able to transfer into another job and work for a corporation for another 6 years at the end of my career. 20% would be banking, 40% would be bookkeeping, payroll, ordering, another 20% is dealing with employees. And then, you do have some flexibility, so another 5 to 10% you could spend as your own time. I would just tell anybody that was interested in buying a service station that you really need to take a strong look at their P&L statement, their Schedule C, and don't go in there with the idea that this guy doesn't know what he's doing and that you're going to make the job better. And then also you need to talk to the oil company, the fuel supplier, and scrutinize that contract. Make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into.